If you're struggling with gambling, you probably thought, I just need more willpower. But here's the truth. Willpower is the worst way to quit. It's exhausting, unreliable, and the more you fight, the more it pulls you back in. Over the years, I've worked with countless people struggling with gambling, and they all share one common frustration. Willpower alone just doesn't work. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why willpower isn't the answer, and you'll walk away with a proven strategy to take back control. To make sense of this, first we need to look at how gambling affects your brain. To make it easy to understand, imagine your hand as a model of your brain. You hold your fist out and put your thumb on the inside, wrapped by your fingers, and this shows how the different parts of your brain work together and often against each other. The fingers on the outside of your knuckles represent the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain responsible for logic, decision-making, and self-control. It's the rational side of your brain. It's the part that says, this is a bad idea, I need to stop. Now the thumb tucked in the inside is the limbic system. This is the more primitive part of your brain, and it represents the emotional center, the part responsible for instincts, survival, and reward. It's the part of your brain that says, this feels good, let's keep doing it. But here's where it gets tricky. When you gamble, your brain's reward system releases a flood of dopamine. It's that chemical that makes you feel pleasure. Over time, this repeated dopamine hit rewires your brain, and the limbic system, or the thumb, starts to take control, prioritizing the short-term high over long-term consequences. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, or the logical part of your brain, is essentially silenced, unable to fully steer your decisions. And what makes this even stronger is how gambling uses positive and negative reinforcement. Every win acts as a powerful positive reinforcement, flooding your brain with dopamine and encouraging you to gamble again. At the same time, gambling offers negative reinforcement, helping you escape from stress, boredom, or difficult emotions. Together, these two reinforcements create a powerful loop that gets stronger with every repetition. The more you gamble, the more ingrained the habit becomes and the harder it feels to break. This is why willpower often fails. Willpower comes from the prefrontal cortex part of your brain that's being overridden by the emotional pull of the limbic system, and it's that limbic system that's the engine. The prefrontal cortex is just the brakes. But when the brakes aren't working, it's like trying to stop a runaway car with nothing but your foot dragging on the ground. It's exhausting and ultimately ineffective. But here's the good news. You can break free from the cycle. The key isn't to fight your brain, it's to work with it. And that means calming the limbic system by addressing the deeper reasons why gambling feels so rewarding. Maybe gambling gives you a sense of excitement, escape, or control. By identifying those needs, you can begin to meet them in healthier, more sustainable ways. If gambling is your escape, maybe explore ways to deal with stress or emotional pain head-on with support. By addressing the root issues driving your behavior, you cut off the fuel supply at its source, and the engine starts to slow down, allowing you to begin effectively engaging the brakes again. Without those positive and negative reinforcements, gambling starts to lose its grip, and you find yourself breaking free. Not because you forced yourself to stop, but because you no longer need it. Let me tell you about John's story. John wasn't just a disciplined guy. He was a high-level athlete, someone who thrived under pressure and lived for the rush of competition. Winning wasn't just what he did, it's who he was. But when his athletic career ended, so did his sense of purpose and self-worth that he'd built his life around. Gambling stepped in to fill that gap. It gave him the same adrenaline rush he felt on the field, but it also gave him a sense of purpose. Beneath it all, though, was a core belief of I'm not good enough. And once we uncovered how this belief started in John's earlier life, we used therapeutic techniques to begin to reframe those experiences. John started to see that his worth wasn't tied to his achievements, it was inherent. And as he addressed those deeper needs, the pull of gambling began to fade. He started coaching young athletes, rediscovered his sense of purpose, and found excitement in healthier challenges. Over time, he didn't have to force himself to stop gambling. He simply just didn't need it anymore. John's story is powerful because it shows that gambling isn't just about the money. It's often a way to meet deeper emotional needs. For John, it was about the positive reinforcement of the thrill of the competition and the negative reinforcement of relieving the uncomfortable feelings of not being good enough by helping him feel valuable. But what about you? What is gambling really doing for you? Maybe it gives a sense of excitement or control that feels missing in other parts of your life. Or maybe it's a way to escape, whether it's from stress, loneliness, or boredom. These aren't just habits, they're unmet needs that gambling temporarily fills. And when I work with clients, I don't just ask why gambling is the problem, I uncover why it's the solution. The problem is that this solution actually keeps you stuck, unable to address the underlying issues. It's like taking a painkiller to numb yourself from the pain of walking around with a broken ankle. So here's an important lesson to ask yourself. What is gambling giving me that I can't get anywhere else? This question can be hard to answer, but it's also the step toward real change. Once you understand what gambling is doing for you, you can start finding healthier, more sustainable ways to meet those needs. And when you meet those needs directly, gambling loses its power. It stops being the only way to feel better. And you can start building a life that's more fulfilling than gambling ever could be. If you're ready to go deeper and work through the root causes of your gambling, join the waitlist to work with me one-on-one at the link in the description, and together we can build the tools you need to create lasting change.